Welcome to a Lessons Learned session presented by Predictive Solutions. This session will focus on observer quality. We will demonstrate methods of measuring observer quality. In particular, we will look at the Observer Summary Report and focus on the index component metrics. We will then discuss how data can be used to drive continuous improvement. Here we have an Observer Summary Report shown in SafetyNet. I've sorted by index percentile to show those observers with the highest ranking or those that show metrics related to better quality observations. In order to drill down into this information, all you have to do is click on the index rating. This will bring up the component metrics. We are currently looking at 6 metrics related to an individual observer. Participation, how many inspections they do per week on average. Number of safe observations per inspection, average. The number of at-risk or unsafe observations per inspection. The severity, the relative severity of the at-risk observations that were collected. And then we also look at unsafe observations with comments. Those unsafes collected that include comments. And then the frequency of all safe observations per inspection. All of these 5 metrics, the better they do, the higher the rating. This last one, all safe or frequency of 100% safe inspections, this brings the rating down. So how do we use this? This first column is the actual data. This looks at this particular inspector, in this case it's Adrian Brody. These metrics relate specifically to this observer. These next set, worst, average, and best, relate to the company average. So I'm comparing Adrian Brody's information as it relates to the rest of the company to see where does he fall. Remember, this is a force ranking system. So what it does is you'll always have somebody at the top, you'll always have somebody at the bottom. More importantly, what I want to do is I want to drill down to find out how can I coach Adrian Brody to make him a better inspector related to the metrics around an observation or an inspection. So as I look, he's doing 1.4 inspections per week. This is great, but what is his expectation? Have we set one for him? He's collecting 82 safe per inspection. That's almost double the company average of 42, which is fantastic. His number of at-risk per inspection is 4.3, the company average being 1.9. Again, more than double. His severity, the company severity is 3.2, he's at 8.2. So he's finding more severe observations, more mediums, more highs. He's putting comments with his unsafe observations, but not all of them. Of the 4.3 he collects on average, only 2.7 have comments. That could be an area of an improvement. And then his frequency of all safe observations right now is 0. When we look at this information, we want to look at opportunities to improve. We want to recognize what that observer has done well. In this case, it was severity, his unsafe count. Did the observer meet expectations? Let's say, for example, he had to do 3 inspections per week. He was only doing 1.4. Now we can talk with him and say, what are the barriers to getting your inspections done? And how can the observer improve? Specifically, what metrics can we look at and say and set a goal around to show I want you to go from here to here? So in this case, let's say we sat down with him and said you're doing 1.4, we want to see 3. He explains why he can't do that. You work with him and his project team or his manager and say here's what we want, how can we get it? You then run another report a month later, for example. When we look at this report, we can see he went from 1.4 to 5.6. So he excelled with the number of inspections that he's performed. His safe is still up, his at-risk is still up, his severity is still up, but I notice his unsafe observations with comments is way down. So now I need to sit down with him and talk about why we want to add comments. So this coaching process can go on. The more frequent you do it, the better results you're going to get. Instead of somebody turning in and pencil whipping and never finding anything wrong, and then you roll your eyes and then at the end of the year you go, man, this isn't working because everybody's putting in garbage. If we don't coach observers, that will continue to happen. so you need to intervene. So the Observer Summary Report, specifically the index metrics, allow us to demonstrate these trends. The date range option allows you to set a goal and then measure going forward to see if they've improved. We can recognize and reward their strengths and then identify opportunities to improvement. And you can measure it within SafetyNet. Ultimately, you want to develop an improvement plan. Define clear expectations. How many inspections per week? How many safe per inspection? How many unsafe per inspection? And it can vary from observer to observer or based on your role within the company, and that's okay as long as you're giving that feedback. You want to periodically monitor the progress. Don't wait till the end of the year. Do it often. And then we want to provide feedback. What is good? What is not good? How can they improve so that they have clear expectations going forward?